to have you start, just introduce yourself and introduce the organization.
James Briggs, founder of Sign of the Times Cultural Workshop and Gallery, which was founded in 1960 in Lincoln Heights. It's a major project under the National Capital Housing, which housed the largest population of youth in the city at the time. And it was in, they didn't call it Ward 7 at the time, it was called Far Northeast. And there was very little arts available to the youth. Only the few art instructors they had in the schools, and they didn't have many of those. So we established our program for the youth in Lincoln Heights. And we conducted workshops. We were given a one-bedroom apartment to use as workshops. And we soon outgrew it. And we asked the director of Capital Housing, I'm trying to think of his name now, but anyway, since there was a lot of vacant houses in Lincoln Heights, and he gave us a two-bedroom apartment, which was on the ground floor. The first one was on the second floor. And so we were able to expand our program and to use the grounds to involve more youth in the program. The co-director of Sign of the Times was Deanne DeBois, who was a dance major at the dance center in Upper Wisconsin Avenue. So we incorporated a dance segment in the workshops.
The Sign of the Times officially starts, did I hear you say 1960, or was it 1969?
60.
1960. Now, through the first couple of years, you were a smaller program, like you said, with a one-bedroom and then a two-bedroom kind of space to conduct classes. When did you move to the house in Deanwood, the space that became the gallery?
Well, first, I went and talked to the principal of H.D. Woodson, the first high school in the far northeast. And they had a sheet metal shop. And they couldn't get any sheet metal instructors because they could make more money in the private industry than they could working for the DC public schools. So the principal was named Napoleon Lewis. And I convinced him that if he would let us use that sheet metal shop that wasn't being used, that we would be able to conduct workshops in the arts. And it would be a mechanism to pull in youth that were literally dropping out of school. And we had jewelry making, a guy named Eugene Green. We had Black History. I forgot the guy's name that volunteered to do that. We had painting and drawing. I did that. And we had dance. And we had music. Somebody donated a few musical instruments. And that's what we used at Woodson.
Okay.
And it did exactly what I told Mr. Lewis it would do. It drew a lot of students, both who were still in school and those who had dropped out, who came back just to be in the workshops. And then to get back to you, we were given the house at 605 56th Street by Dr. Frank G. Davis, who was a professor at Howard University. And we opened it up as a gallery in 1962. We had our first exhibit. We featured artists such as Michael Platt, who was still, I think it was his senior year at Howard University. We had Percy Martin, who had just started teaching at Sidwell Friends printmaking. We had George Martin, who was teaching photography for us. We had Deanne, who was still teaching dance, but since the stage was being overutilized by the football players and everybody else, we got a church that agreed to let her use the space in there for the dance. And that's where we went. But I need to back up a little.
Sure, sure.
The summer of, we're going to start in 62. Of 63, we were invited to do our workshops at Richardson Community School. And we had the whole second floor. And they had about, this was a summer program, they had about 60 students who came in to school to take lunch. They had a free lunch program that they fed the kids. Plus they had to do catch up on their reading and math. And then they could participate in the workshops on the second floor that we were doing. That worked out fine until the principal, Mrs. Shanwell, retired, and the person who took over the community school and the school, that was a DC public school that had it. They were trying the community school program in the summer. Decided that they weren't going to continue with our program. So that's when, fortunately, Dr. Davis gave us the house to do our programs in. And in 72, I mean, 19, what's it, 72? 60. I'm getting a little mixed up. It might have been 72 when we opened up the gallery.
Yeah, I believe that's what it says.
Yeah.
Some of the information.
We opened up the gallery.
Just to, because 1960 is very early for community art programs in terms of just them kind of getting started. You know, we see a lot of stuff that happens after 67 going into the 70s, but 60 would definitely be very early. It predates the National Endowment for the Arts. It predates any sort of art commission here in Washington, D.C. How were you guys funding yourselves at that point?
Well, we were getting in-kind donations from businesses and corporations. And then we were writing to people we knew to ask for support for the program, since we weren't getting any money. And that's how we funded the program, through contributions, through in-kind contributions, and volunteers.
Now, if I could just have you jump back for me a little bit, because I don't know much about your origin story. Could you tell us, I mean, I don't know if you grew up in Washington, D.C., like where you went to school, your artistic background, can you share some of that with us?
Yeah, well, I was born in Washington, D.C., in Freedman's Hospital, which is now Howard University Hospital. I had a brother, younger brother, and two sisters, two older sisters. I went to public schools, I went to Cadoza. Then I left and went to Chicago. And that's when I really saw how the arts in the community came together. They had a very good program in Chicago, run by artists, that made available programs indoors and outdoors for the youth. I enrolled in the Art Institute in Chicago and began my formal training in the arts. Well, I was there for about 2 years. And money ran out, so I had to come home.
What year was that? Do you remember?
That was in the 50s.
Okay.
I remember Martin Luther King got assassinated.
So that would be 68?
Yeah, around there.
Yeah.
So I came home, and I was so impressed by the art program in Chicago working with youth that I wanted to try that here. So that at what's the name of that school? We're in Evans. It was a junior high school right there in Brooklyn. I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, I met the after-school program. This lady was running the after-school program and volunteered to teach art. And she agreed that I could do that. So I started working with young people from the community at that junior high school. And then I later enrolled in Corcoran. I have to back up. I went in the Air Force in 1953 and was in the Air Force from 1953 to 1963. I got out on an early discharge when they were letting people out. So I had the GI Bill, and I used some of that when I was up in Chicago, but still it didn't suffice for room and board, food. So I had to come home. And that's when I started doing the work with the junior high school.
Okay. Just want to hop back, because you did mention the assassination of Dr. King, and, you know, that being 68, and you being in Chicago immediately before that. You mentioned the Chicago youth arts programs. And one of the community workshops that we know a lot about is the Obasi community organization that created the Wall of Respect. And were you in Chicago for around that time? Do you remember the creation of the Wall of Respect?
No, I really don't. I might have been in Chicago at that time, but the artists that were working, I was on the south side, really neat, right there by the University of Chicago. They had a lot of projects right there. So a lot of people on public assistance living right there. University of Chicago was here and apartments were here. And a lot of those kids were enrolled in that program they were doing in Chicago. The only thing I remember about Chicago was the, they were having all the trouble and the projects up there. The gangs. I remember hearing about that, but I was no place near that.
Okay. So you're home sometime by 1968. You start working in the middle school around Brooklyn, and you're creating an arts program at that point for the school?
Yes.
And then sometime after that is when Sign of the Times was founded? Would that be correct?
Yes.
Okay. Because the exhibition that we're working on currently really, hopes to kind of create a timeline for how public murals emerged in particularly the east side of the city. And you're such a force in that even happening. I want to try to tap in a little bit to those early projects. The earliest that I believe was Creator's Gift.
Well, yes, that was the first mural project we did. But before that, I used to go up to Adams Morgan. That was where a lot of the artistic people lived. Then I had a friend, Dino, who was an artist from Costa Rica. And then there was a gallery, Fondel del Sol Gallery on our street, Northwest. And he worked out of that gallery. And I was really impressed about the murals they were doing up in Adam Morgan. I especially was impressed with the murals with the parrots. Remember seeing that mural? It stayed there for a long time. I think they redid it. But the two parrots.
Yeah, the three macaws is the, yeah. I
Yes.
believe that's the one you're talking about. That was
Right.
from Byron Pack.
Right.
Now, that would have been painted in the 90s.
Now, I don't know when it was painted, but I was impressed by the
You
mural.
were seeing those murals.
Right. And then there was another one about the bicycles. There was a bicycle shop up there.
The cows on bikes. Yeah. Again, another late 90s one that I think would be after you guys painted Creator's Gift already.
Yeah, I know, but
Okay.
in the back of my mind, I was saying, we needed something like that in far northeast.
Got you. Understood.
And we had at that time we were doing a lot of summer programs. We had as many as 40 or 50 kids in our summer program. And this one young man, Jerome Wheeler, was very talented. And he started, I asked him if he could paint a mural. Actually, I told him, I said, I want you to paint something real large on these panels. And I got him some panels. And he started painting this mural, which is a scene from acted out of the Bible, where God is reaching out, touching. I forgot who he's touching, but I remember.
Adam and Eve, right?
Yeah, right. I remember seeing that, and that's what he was doing. And he was emphatically, I was going to ask him, I said, well, let me give you some help with that. He didn't want anybody to work on it but him.
Okay.
So he did it all by himself. I think he was a sophomore at H.D. Woodson.
Okay.
And he lived in the apartment right up the street. We had, in the summer program, we had students, they had to do murals, but not on the same scale as Jerome's mural.
They were doing smaller panel work.
Right.
Okay. And where did Creator's Gift end up getting mounted? Because it's mounted on the side of the building.
There was a bakery that had baked bread for the school, DC Public Schools. And it was on the side wall of this bakery. And there was a Safeway in a kind of submerged parking lot. The Safeway was here and kind of went down a little hill, and there was a parking lot. And then there you could see the mural on the side of the wall of this bakery. And so we got a lot of compliments about the mural because that was the only Safeway in far northeast at the time. And
I was just going to ask if that was 1971. Would that
Yes.
be appropriate?
yes,
Okay. So you guys had done that project in 71, pardon me, which is really early again for murals in DC. We didn't have a whole lot of them then at that point in time. Did you guys paint more murals through the 70s? Or was that kind of
yes.
like a,
No, that started it all. I met Alex.
do you remember what year you met Alex?
Not off the top of my head. I think it was around 73.
That would kind of coincide with him, I guess stepping out of being a professional graphic designer and looking more towards creating his own art.
Right.
Okay.
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 I read Washington Post did a nice article on Alex. He was hired as a graphic artist by Heckinge. And but Alex, I later found out that he you know, he didn't want nobody to tell him how to do things. He wanted to do them the way he wanted to do them. And I could see working in a corporate environment, that didn't go over too good.
Yeah.
So for whatever reasons, he wasn't working there no more.
Yeah.
Then I saw this picture of Frederick Douglass on the side of the wall right there at 8th and 8th Street Northeast.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the best interpretation of Frederick Douglass I'd ever seen. And I kept asking people, who did that? I mean, I went in a club, it was a club right there, I can't remember the club. And nobody could tell me.
No,
And
just to clarify, the mural that I'm aware of that he painted at 8th and H had the portraits inside of the letters, and it said "For my people." Is that the one you're talking about, or something different?
no, I think this was something different. No,
Is it much earlier?
earlier, this was earlier.
Gotcha.
I can't remember what else was on it, but I do remember Frederick Douglass' portrait on it. I was very impressed. So I took it upon myself to find out who the artist was and was he still in Washington, D.C. And I later found out the artist was named Alex Madison. I think I went through the D.C. Commission to find out who he was. And I met him. He was on a scaffold at least 4 stories high, right there at H, where H Street runs into Massachusetts Avenue.
Okay.
It's,
The air shaft?
yes, that air shaft.
So that would have been 1987.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a picture on it there of the Capitol
Yeah.
in black and white.
Yeah, Val Luton took the space.
Yeah. Alex was doing Duke Ellington in color. And somebody told me that's where I could find Alex, on that scaffolding. So I, like a fool, went there. He was way on the top of the mural paint. I climbed up the scaffolding, got to the top of it, and told him that who I was, and he was still painting. He was painting, talking to me on the side, and I told him I'd like to really talk to him if he had time. But the scaffolding started moving like this, and all below was cement. And it dawned on me, if this thing tumbles down, we're both dead, you know? And I said, well, okay, I'll leave you my card. Get in contact with me. And I got the hell down off that scaffold because I just couldn't understand how he could be working on it all by himself. So that's how I met Alex.
Yeah. Sadly, that piece never got finished because for that very reason. They didn't give him the funding he needed to be safe.
Well, that's true. They didn't give him the money. They gave him partially the money to get started. And they wouldn't give him the money.
The total budget for that was $10,500.
I don't know what it was, but that Alex, they didn't give Alex no place near that.
No, and when Val Luton ended up painting over it a year later, when Alex was still kind of trying to get additional funding to be safe, they blasted Duke Ellington off the wall. And then they allowed Val Luton to install swing scaffolding, which is much safer. And they had not given Alex that option. He was told he was not allowed to do it. Very, very sad, because honestly, as long as that piece from Val Luton has been there, if it had been Duke Ellington and it had been Alex's work,
Yeah.
we would be maybe having a different conversation about Alex's legacy, which is, truly, Sign of the Times seemed to have worked with him, pretty closely for a number of years.
Well, they were blackballing him.
Yeah.
DC Commission wouldn't give him no more money.
Because he didn't finish.
Finish, you're right.
So at that point, you guys started a working relationship.
Right. We started a working relationship. I told him, well, hell, you have to worry about them. You can come work for Sign of the Times. We'll get the money, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And he painted some murals there at the Eastover. It's a shopping center right there. I think it was called the Eastover Shopping Center. It used to be a chicken place, not chicken, fish place. What's that fish place?
Would that be Benco? The Benco mural?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
But there was a fishing place there.
Okay.
Had Tiffany lamps in it.
Oh, was that Arthur Treacher's?
Yes, that's what it was. It was a chain thing.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently people wouldn't want to pay the price they wanted. And so they went out of business. And I got in contact with them and asked them, could we do the murals on the panels they had boarded it up. And when they got ready to, whoever was to open it up, could we have the panels? And they agreed with it. So Alex painted Billie Holiday, Miles Davis, who else?
James Baldwin.
James Baldwin, Althea Gibson,
Yeah.
on all those panels.
Mm-hmm. W.E.B. Du Bois also.
Du Bois was on there too. And when they gave the contractors the job to come and clean that place out, they took the murals with them. So we lost those murals.
Yeah.
Then Alex painted some more murals. He painted the mural on East of the River mural.
That would be 1989. Okay.
I think that mural was the one that made Alex really known, because there's a lot of visibility. And again, he was working with scalpel. And they didn't give us the money they should have given us. I mean, we knew this. We'd been fighting DC Commission on the arts. We were a thorn in their side because we knew they were giving the money to white artists and the Latinos, blacks, and Hispanics.
And it wasn't being invested east of the river.
No, right. Same thing with the rec departments.
Right.
That rec department, the Davis Rec Department up there on Wisconsin Avenue, you go up there and take everything. The ones out our way, they just gave us the balls, basketball and football, which was a very cheap investment.
Right.
But anyway, Alex did the mural east of the river mural. Alex did the first mural in New York Avenue.
Which was that mural?
It was called the Washingtonian mural.
Oh, with Marvin Gaye, and yes, the one that you guys just refurbished.
Yeah, refurbished.
So that was 1990?
Yes.
Okay. 1 second, one pause. Mom, can you do me a favor? Can you go and ask Christy if we can have the space in here for like another hour and a half past 3:30. I don't know what's happening, but can you check in and see? Thank you.
You can,
I appreciate it, thank you. So,
But to back up on that, we got some money from the commission to they sold the shopping center. And the new owners got in contact with us.
okay.
He wanted us to refurbish the mural.
Just come and do it. Okay.
He wanted a budget. When I sent him the budget, I guess he thought he could get it for maybe $2,000. He said, no, he changed his mind. And that building was going to go down anyway. And we'll build apartments. So that was a rationalization why we couldn't come up and refurbish it. Then what we did those murals on panels. And I forgot the guy's name. It was a Spanish guy that was in charge of DC Commission. He was the second.
Espinoza?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know what happened, but something happened. He wasn't there long.
Well, you know how it goes over there.
Yeah.
In and out.
He came out and saw the mural, the first Deanwood mural that,
Rick painted?
yeah, Rick
He was
painted,
an
I
African
think it was.
American. Yeah.
And I told him about the mural that we painted the panels on that the commission had that we were going to have put in the schools. And they were dragging their feet on doing it.
No, hold on. If I could just, those murals on panels, were those the ones that Alex painted for Safeway and McBride's, or this is something different?
No, we have to go back. I'm glad you reminded me of that.
Because that's all in the same area, right? Like,
Right,
And Richard even had a mural.
Right.
Yes, okay. I'll bring up the refurbishment stuff later, but let's talk.
Alex painted, the Safeway was coming into where the old McBride store was. So they had boarded up McBride's while they were doing the construction work in there. I got permission from Safeway to do the murals, provided when they got finished that we would get it. Alex and students, summer jobs, worked on the murals. And they did almost a repeat thing as the one that did Benco's. They had Paul Robeson, who else is on that mural?
Baldwin again.
Yeah, Baldwin was on there.
Althea is on that one too.
Billie Holiday was on there. And I can't think of the rest. Was Sammy Davis Jr. on there? But anyway.
He's on East of the River. I don't know about the other one, but yeah.
So, as they were almost getting finished, I went over to the library and asked the librarian, could we put the murals on the fence on the parking lot? Because I knew that the 4th of July was coming up. And I knew that possibly somebody was going to take some of that panel stuff to make firecracker stands. And sure enough, we came, over the weekend, we came back and the murals were gone. And we couldn't get no recourse because the librarian had let us do that. You know, that wasn't really part of the librarian's thing. She did that out of courtesy.
Right.
So we lost those murals, which Alex did. And Wright did a mural on the side of the drugstore.
Yeah, Richard.
Richard did,
Yeah.
side of the drugstore. And what happened to that? We had a big snowstorm, and it caved in the roof, and it messed up the mural.
That was a lot of work that you guys had done, right?
Right in that area, right in that shopping center.
And you were really talking about like 90, 91, you know, between 89 and like 91, and you guys really transformed there and then down into Deanwood, really bringing mural and public arts into that space.
Correct.
Because if and you may know more than me, the Red Cross mural that was done by Big Al.
Big Al, right.
Was that there already before you guys did your pieces?
Yes, it was already there.
Okay. But I always thought that the work that you guys did in those that short couple years in that space was super important because you were bringing black faces into the community in the art. You know what I'm saying? It was, you know, I mean.
Well, we were bringing history. We wanted to restore the history of the important artists that a lot of people that lived in the community knew. And we would, the whole purpose of it was that the schools, and here I just fault the schools, we were hoping that would be a learning. The schools could bring the children down. And they got this beautiful mural right in front of them, okay? And they could make make a lesson plan of who the images on those murals were, and why they were on there, and what contributions they made. But they never seemed to do that. I don't know why. Which was a golden opportunity. You're talking about education.
And you found them to be underutilized even in that respect, right. Even after making them prominent and in the center of the community.
Right.
And underprotected?
They were protected because they were up so high that hardly nobody could get to them.
Okay.
If they were down low, but that's not really the case because the mural Rick did. You could walk up to it, and they didn't deface that because they could identify with it and they could appreciate it. And then when Jerome revitalized it, we got all kinds of compliments from the community.
Both of the restorations, the one on New York Avenue,
right? Both
restoration,
right?
Which is hugely important, just in continuing. You know what I'm saying? Not only that the legacy of Alex's work will continue on, but that the legacy and the concept of the mural itself will live on, and in that space. Doing the same thing in Deanwood, I think does the service in that way. Is east of the river? Did the building come down?
Nope, it's still there. I think they sold it again.
Well,
it's a new owner owns it.
I guess another potential opportunity to see if there's a chance to make sure that one doesn't go anywhere. So that was a very busy few years with you right there, and a partnership with Alex Madsen, that climbing up on top of that scaffolding, kind of paid some dividends. Alex is one of the artists that we know not a whole lot about, and obviously he seemed to work with Sign of the Times pretty well. But after a certain point in time in the early 90s, we don't see new work from Alex Madsen. And do you have any idea,
well,
I know he was getting a little older.
Alex I don't know who died first. I think John Hurrah, who ran the Market 5 Gallery, he employed, he had Alex as the curator of the gallery. And John got sick and he died. And I think Alex got sick and he died. I know there was some kind of estrangement between Alex and his family. He didn't want anything to do with his family.
The kids and everything?
Anything. I don't know what happened. He never told me what happened. After Alex's mother died, she was living in a house on Allison Street off of 14th, no, off of Georgia Avenue. And the house got sold. I don't know whether it was something about he felt he didn't get his share of the money of the house being sold, but he spoke very badly of his family. And he was supposed to have a brother who was a preacher. But I didn't know.
Did you have much contact with him after the mid-90s?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I guess I did. Like I said, he was working at the Market 5 Gallery, and I used to go up there, and we used to do a show with the schools, Young, Gifted, and Black. We had an annual show at the Market 5 Gallery that involved about 4 or 5 high schools. But no, after John died, and then I heard that Alice died.
Which would have been about 10 years ago, something like that?
It might have been a little longer than that.
Okay.
I think I got a call from his daughter. And she was calling me because she wanted to do something on Alex. And because the bad blood between Alex and his family, I kind of brushed off. I kind of, deep down inside, I was kind of saying, why do you wait now that he's dead, that you want to do something? Why didn't you come and do something when he was still living? But like I said, I never knew what the bad blood was between him and his family.
You know, I think she reached out to Dr. Frank too, in and around the same time.
Right, but she was probably trying to find anybody that knew Alex.
Yeah. I really wish I could get in touch with his daughter, because I've been doing my Google detectiving, and there's hardly anything out there.
I don't even remember her name.
Yeah. Anything written about Alex, with the exception of the article describing, the removal of the Duke Ellington mural and Val Luton painting his mural over top of that space. There's almost nothing. And I think one of the reasons why I really wanted to do this particular exhibition was because of Alex, because even like New York Avenue, I remember seeing when I was a kid, but the other ones I didn't get to see until I got introduced to Dr. Frank and the project. And I always thought to myself, now here's a guy that, possibly before Byron Peck, before these other folks, like very prolific and had a real sensibility about public murals, just the way things were kind of put together and kind of conceived. But there was something about his work that always drew me in. Even today, even like if I go to east of the river, and even though it needs to be refurbished and needs a little bit of love, it still stands as monumental public art. Like,
Yeah, Alex was a hell of an artist. He was a hell of an artist. Some guys called me, and they had all of Alex's artwork.
who's this?
I forgot the name of it. They lived in Fort Washington.
Okay.
They were trying to come up with how they could incorporate Alex's work and sell it, make T-shirts or make copies of it. And they invited me over to their place, one of them's place. In the basement, in the rec room, there was all of Alex's work around the walls. And I told them, that I thought that might be a legal matter. And that they wanted me to be part of it, but I told them, unless they could show me something legally saying that they were authorized to do this, I couldn't be a part of it.
I assume this was sometime after his death.
Yeah, he was dead. Yes,
Wow. Wow.
but they had all this work.
I would say this: if for some reason you recall any details of those people, you let me know, because I will be on them. Because honestly, that's the thing that I think is the missing part here, and for many of the muralists, really, yourself included. You know what I'm saying? Like, the work is so misunderstood or not understood, misrepresented in some context. That there needs to be very solid documentation done, and there needs to be a apparatus to be able to present it in a way that befits the quality and the intent of the work. And Alex is one of those artists that his name is always right here. It always sits right here. No matter how many new murals go up, what I'm saying, it doesn't matter, Very, very. But I don't want to divest too much. I want to jump back into Sign of the Times.
Okay, but I'm gonna make you could probably get that article in Washington Post on Alex.
I will look again, because I've been doing some research. Like I said, the only article I found is a Washington City paper article that talks about the air shaft situation.
No, this was Washington Post. He had a clipping of it.
Oh, so I got that clipping, right?
With the dogs. He was sitting down. He had two Doberman Pinschers sitting on each side.
I have not seen that one.
But it's in the Washington Post, so you should have a look back on that
I will go looking for it.
in the
I'll just
archives.
point you in the right direction. So Sign of the Times started really doing these big murals in the late 80s, early 90s, right? The ones on the side of the walls and such. You're still continuing to do panel projects where you put things up on panels. One of the other spaces I know that you guys had a big impact was on the Strand building, where you guys had a series of murals there. Can you talk about those murals?
Well, the Strand is a landmark. At last, they did what they said they were going to do. They kept the facade and turned them into apartments, kind of like what they did up on Pennsylvania Avenue. Wherever we could get the space or the okay to do murals, private property. We would do it provided we could get some kind of support. A lot of times we would get places like Home Depot and Lowe's to donate the paint, brushes and stuff. But we wanted to try to get something to compensate the muralists and the students that work with us. It's always, as Rick could testify, it's always been a struggle to get the commission and humanities and whoever else proclaims to be supporters of the arts to give the kind of support to artists east of the river as they did artists on the other side of the river. And what our murals did most of all is made people aware that art can play a very important part in the lives of their children. It could bring back the history, the positive history of the contributions Afro-Americans have made to this country. And I'm glad that I was a little part of that in exposing young people to the arts. We've taken young people who've never really been out of the community to places like Wolf Trap, to places like New York to see Pippins, I guess that was the show they went to see, to take them to arena stage, to let them see firsthand the national arts. And then George Martin, who's worked with us tirelessly, was he started as a guard in the National Gallery and ended up being the chief of security for the National Gallery. Enable us to bring young people to the gallery to go behind the scenes, to see the curators, how they prepare the arts for the exhibits. So I think, and through our dance, we've heard of our young people going as far as Las Vegas dancing. We're very proud of a young lady who was the first student on our board of directors, Gloria Ivy, who graduated from H.T. Woodson. And I asked Gloria what she wanted to be when she finished college, because I knew she was going to college, because her parents were behind her. She's now a GYN doctor with her own practice out in Virginia. So we made a lot of contributions to our community, to our youth, to our schools, through Sign of the Times. And every now and then I'll run across a student, someone will say, "Hi, Mr. Jimmy." And I know by saying that he was in our program. There's a guy at the VA hospital, a radiologist, and he told me that how he got involved with that was through our photography program. He got interested in photography. I met another kid, a kid is adult. You see him when you put the lines down on the street. To get these machines, you have to work. I said, "What made you get into this?" He said he learned that from being in the silkscreen workshop. So the only thing that really hurt us was the invent of the cell phones. And what happened to the cell phones is all the people got rid of the landlines. So we had the telephone numbers and landlines. And it's kind of, I guess they want to be a superstar before they'll pick up the telephone and call 202-399-3400, the same number that's been there ever since 1960. And when I asked them, I said, "Well, why didn't you call us?" They said, "Well, I didn't think I didn't have your number." But you know, old habits die. It's hard to break old habits. But I think if you persevere and keep doing it and get support from the community, especially the churches, because they're the backbone of the community. We've held workshops in churches, we've held workshops in schools, we've held workshops in projects. We've held workshops wherever we could hold them, indoors and outdoors. And like I said, we don't know exactly where a lot of our students are, but we do know that a lot of them are grandmothers now. Some of them might be great-grandmothers. And every time I run into one or two, they say, "I wish the Sign of the Times was still around like it was when I was going to it." So I think we did make a mark, a cultural mark. And it's needed more now than ever, especially with the killing of the young people shooting, stealing, just going wild. And it's because they haven't been really exposed to anything else but that street life.
You know, not only the kids, but also the artists that you empowered to be able to create and bring, you know, this work into the community, I think is another huge, you know, victory for Sign of the Times in that quest. And I never took your classes, but your work has deeply impacted me, particularly over the last few years that we've come to know each other. And I just, you know, for a lot of people, I think they just need to know. You know, they need to get the information, and that's what we're hoping to do here. So I do say again, thank you for being willing to come and sit with us and answer these questions. And I just want to, I mean, we have a minute or two. How are we doing?
So, this is saying you could specifically have this space until 4.
Cool. I need to pull everything out of there.
Yeah, before 4.
Gotcha. Is there anything that you want to leave us with at the end of this? Any things that Sign of the Times has been working on that you're hoping that's going to come to fruition over the next few months or few years? Or any just last words you want to leave with for the interview?
Well, you know, we've been, as many people have, we've been hit very hard with the COVID-19. And I guess what we'd like to do is reopen our gallery. It's ironic that the school that we worked with, Drew Elementary School, that another art organization, Ward 7, has moved into that school. And we were working with the school a long time ago. But then I just recently found out that there is a new charter school that opened up in the community. And it's run by 2 ladies. And I'm going to go and meet with them and find out how we could help them make their school very successful.